Hello and welcome back to In God We Trust podcast. Today we are going over the Last Supper and some things that happened before and after the Last Supper. So I hope that you guys are seeing value in the Last Supper events. Here's just something that, here is something that I'm going to just tell you guys right now. I feel like there's a lot of juicy content, so I'm going to read and just give short commentary on these things because it's all in the words, okay? I don't really know where I'm going with this here, but there's just try to if you like do like a morning routine, if I were you, I would just like go like stretch, then you can like focus on like the words. But stretching is really nice actually. You guys should do it like a lot more often. Anyway, yep, I'm just going to read, just try to pay attention to the things that are happening because this is very important. Okay, well, here we go. Luke chapter 22. Judas agrees to betray Jesus. Now the feast of unleavened bread, called the Passover, was approaching, and the chief priests and the teachers of the law were looking at some way to get rid of Jesus, for they were afraid of the people. Then Satan entered Judas, called Iscariot, one of the 12 disciples, by the way. And Judas went to the chief priests and the officers of the temple guard and discussed with them how he might betray Jesus. They were delighted and agreed to give him money. He consented and watched for the opportunity to hand Jesus over to them when no crowd was present. Okay, so what just happened there was Judas had, well, I guess he didn't have, Satan entered Judas. And then he went over to the chief priests and he said, here's what's going on. I'll give you Jesus in a time where there's no crowd if you give me some money. And they were like, okay, deal. So now the Last Supper is happening, and this is where it's the 12 disciples and Jesus. So here we go. Okay. Then came the day of unleavened bread, on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, "Go and make preparations for us to eat the Passover." Okay, here's a little side note, a did you know. What was the Last Supper? The Last Supper was a Passover meal that Jesus ate with his disciples the night before he was crucified. He told them he was about to die. He also told them to celebrate the Lord's Supper until he came again. See 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 23 through 29. Where do you want us to prepare for it? They asked. He replied, "As you enter the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him to the house that he enters, and say to the owner of the house, 'The teacher asks, where is the guest room, where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a large upper room, all furnished. Make preparations there." Wow, that's cool. Jesus has said that 2 times now, like with the donkey, and now with this. You can just pull up and say the teacher or the Lord, and the person just is like, okay. So that's pretty cool. Okay, here we go. They left and found these things just as Jesus had told them. So they prepared the Passover. When the hour came, Jesus and his apostles reclined at the table, and he said to them, "I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I will not eat it again until it finds fulfillment in the kingdom of God." After taking the cup, he gave thanks and said, "Take this and divide it among you. For I tell you, I will not drink again of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes." And he took bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body, given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, after the supper, he took the cup, saying, "This is the cup. This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you. But the hand of him who is going to betray me is with mine on the table. The Son of Man will go as it has been decreed, but woe to that man who betrays him." Okay, I'm going to pause in between the reading here. He just said, okay, this cup is my new covenant. This was spoken on God said there's going to be a new covenant, and it's Jesus' blood, which is poured out for you. But here's something cool, he said. But the hand of him who is going to betray me is with mine on the table. So he just said there that the man who is going to betray me, his hand is on the table. That is awesome. Jesus is so cool. He always like calls people out right in front of their face. I mean, it's awesome. Okay, so anyway, they began to question among themselves, which of them it might be who would do this. And this is because he just said, he who is going to betray me, his hand is on the table. So the disciples were like, what? Okay, so also a dispute arose among them as to which of them was considered to be the greatest. To be greatest. Jesus said to them, the kings of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who exercise authority over them call themselves benefactors. But you are not to be like that. Instead, the greatest among you should be like the youngest, and the one who rules like the one who serves. For who is greater, the one who is at the table or the one who serves? Is it not the one who is at the table? Is it not the one who is at the table? But I am among you as one who serves you. You are those who have stood by me in my trials, and I confer on you a kingdom, just as my Father conferred one on me, so that you may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and sit on thrones, judging on the 12 tribes of Israel. Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift you as wheat, but I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers. But he replied, Lord, I am ready to go with you to prison and to death. Jesus replied, I tell you, Peter, before the rooster crows today, you will deny 3 times that you know me. Then Jesus asked him, when I sent you without purse, bag, or sandals, did you lack anything? Nothing, they answered. He said to them, but now if you have a purse, take it and also a bag. And if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. It is written, and he was numbered with the transgressors. And I tell you that this must be fulfilled in me. Yes, what is written about me is reaching its fulfillment. The disciples said, see, Lord, here are 2 swords. That is enough, he replied. Okay, so Jesus just said a lot of stuff there. A lot of stuff. So, first of all, I'm just going to start from the beginning, very quick recap. So he told them to go into some guy's house and say, the teacher needs this place, and for the Passover. 2 disciples went, did that, exactly what Jesus said. So Jesus said, I've been looking forward to this meal, and this is the fulfillment of the kingdom of God. And while he was saying this, he said, this is my body, this is my blood given unto you. It's a new covenant. And that's what God spoke of in the Old Testament, is this new covenant. And then he was speaking that same sentence. He said, but the hands of him who is going to betray me will be on the table, is on the table with me. Then the disciples were like, what's going on? And then, they were all stirred up. And then then all of a sudden dispute rose among who was considered the greatest. And then he said the Gentiles, they exercise authority and call themselves, but don't do that. Instead, be like the youngest, and how everyone is equal, and no one's the greatest. Everyone is equal. The servant is just as important as the master, and the servant on the table, they're the same, everything. So then he said to Simon that he prayed for him, and that Satan asked to sift him as wheat. So I don't really know what that means, but I'm sure that it means to just like shake him up, to like rattle him, But Jesus prayed that his faith will never be shaken, and his strength will be very strong. So then he says to Peter, he says, before the rooster crows today, you will deny me 3 times. And then Peter was like, what? No. And then he said yes. So that's kind of sad, but I mean, I just feel bad for him, But I mean, it had to be done. This is all for a purpose. So, okay. So then he said, if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and go buy one. I think that's pretty cool. Because I just feel like there's times where you need to be on your guard at all times, and this is when the time has come, because Jesus is about to be gone for a while, and it's just kind of sad. So Jesus praying on the Mount of Olives. So that is at nighttime. He always just like disappears, and that's when he'll come back, like the next morning. So we're gonna read this real quick, and then that's all we're gonna go over today. And then tomorrow we're gonna go over Jesus being arrested and then his crucifixion. So here we go. Jesus prays on the Mount of Olives. Jesus went out as usual to the Mount of Olives, and his disciples followed him. On reaching the place, he said to them, "Pray that you will not fall into temptation." He withdrew about stones, throw beyond them, knelt down and prayed. He withdrew about a stone's throw beyond them, knelt down and prayed. Okay. Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours will be done. An angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. And being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. He rose from prayer and went back to the disciples. He found them asleep, exhausted from sorrow. "Why are you sleeping?" he asked them. "Get up and pray, so that you will not fall into temptation." Okay, so Jesus was just warning them there. First of all, I'll just talk about it real quick. So he said, pray that you will not fall into temptation. Sorry, that's kind of hard for me to say. So then he sat down, he was praying, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup, yet not my will, but yours be done." And then an angel came down and strengthened him, and then he was so nervous, he was sweating blood. That's insane. That's really crazy. Then he rose up from prayer and went back to his disciples, and they were all asleep. And he said, "Why are you sleeping? Get up and pray so that you will not fall into temptation." So he just warned them there, and I'm sure they were not praying at the moment. Well, they were sleeping, obviously. So, okay. Well, that is all leading up to Jesus being arrested, and that's coming up very soon here. So let's just keep this fresh in our minds, because tomorrow he'll be arrested and crucified. So thank you for listening. If you guys know someone who needs to hear this Last Supper story, spread it with them. The usual. Okay, well, thank you for listening. Have a nice day, and God bless.